Hey, this is Metal Mike, and welcome to the new Metal for Life column. Today's column is called Death Metal Blues. We are diving into darker depths of our drop D explorations, and I'm going to show you some killer riffs that combine different stylistic form into some killer metal explorations. So check this out. All right, so let me break this riff down for you. It starts with a bar of 16-note syncopations, and it's basically alternate picking, and you have this, right? So it's a very death metal type of sound, and you definitely do want to mute those notes so they have a nice tight sound. After this little part, I go into a D note right here on the 5th string, and there's a little bit of an open string. So you have a little bit of a dirt, and what I mean by that is when I move this D note into a D sharp, I still play an open D bottom string. Right, so it gives you this sort of like unexplained heavy sound. One thing I also wanted to show you guys is when I play this note, sometimes I have a tendency of quickly hammering on, like. James Hetfield from Metallica does a lot of stuff like that in his rhythm playing that makes his playing very percussive and great to listen to. That's the beginning. That's sort of like what roots the riff together, and then you have now blues patterns that come in between them. So after you go, right, you have basically a pentatonic scale, but using the drop D string, and you have a pick and a pull-off pattern. It goes like this. So it's basically like an A minor pentatonic scale, but because now this is your D string, the pattern moves up on this string only. And it gives you a cool sound because you have the drop D now when you're fretting it, so the sound is slightly thicker for some reason. Right? You go back now to the beginning of the riff. And to finish it off, we're going back to the A pentatonic scale, adding the flat 5 note, which is going to be the E flat, and we do something like this. Right, you heard this millions of times. I start on the 7th fret G string, and I slide it. Right, so when you get to the bottom of the guitar on a 5th and 6th string, you definitely want to accent those first 2 notes, so the riff has movement. Okay, for this next example, I am going to show you how you can find a melodic line without making too much movement. Check this out. Okay, so for this example, we'll basically have two types of power chords, a standard 1/5 power chord that I like to call it, and a bar power chord, of course, because you got the drop D. Right hand rhythm is basically like a gallop, right? As long as you remember those few things, you have the majority of the riff down. And I'll show you where the cool melodic part is and a little heavy metal trick in there as well. All right, check this out. So you have a basically like a bounce. So this is what I want to bring your attention to. On this D sharp, I do this trick. It's one of those things that it's hard to figure out, but you definitely hear it on the records. So when you play this D sharp note, so I almost sort of like, I play a bar. I just call it bar. Forget about the theory, just like a bar, and I quickly hum around onto a power chord. So you have, right? And you hear this in Priest and Black Sabbath. Right, so the bottom is basically a melodic line, but it's really, there's a lot of chromaticism in it. And again, that goes back to the whole sort of like a Black Sabbath movement, when you can have a melody without jumping all over the guitar. And Jerry Cantrell with Alice in Chains has also been the master of those type of riffs. Right, so you have sort of like, so you go up a half step, go down a half step, go up a half step, go down a half step. And that's a really cool melodic thing for you metalheads out there. That's it. Okay, for this last example, I am going to show you something kind of cool. Not used a whole lot from my experience that I see, but it's because when you have a drop D tuning, your octave, if you were going to play an octave, it's no longer this. It's kind of like this. It's just basically the same fret. And when you hit your strings and you mute now the 5th string underneath your 1st finger, you got this cool like. And just the way your fingers work, because you have your strongest fingers, right, 1 and 2, this kind of allows you to have a cool vibrato on that octave. So you got, which kind of gives you, again, that killer sound that many bands use. So let me show you this example. Check it out. All right, so what makes this riff interesting is the shifting meter between 4/4 and 5/4, and it features the sliding octave here, right? You put a little vibrato on the octave, makes it cool, and then right at the end, you jump to finish off the riff right on top of the neck, which kind of could give you the riff Tommy Iommi type of sound. That's really interesting. All right, check this out. Okay, so the strumming pattern is an eighth followed by 2/16ths. And I'm basically sliding up the octaves in this riff. That's really the main part of the riff. And this is when I jump up to the 17, 18, and then 15th fret. So I alternate all these single notes.